Hello everyone and welcome to Airships Conquer the Skies. Today we're doing another commenter challenge, this time by the internet, who has proposed Army of 1/2. The concept of the challenge is I have to design a medium to large size ship to go up against a mixture of Aussies Mark 1 and Mark 2s at a 2-to-1 ratio, so 2 Mark 1s for every Mark 2 of equal or slightly greater cost of the medium or large ship. The idea of this challenge is, of course, throughout some of my videos on this, throughout some of my videos on this game, I've kind of showcased how a lot of really cheap ships can be incredibly effective, even against really large, ships that they look like they'd pack a punch, and they usually do, but a lot of times the smaller ships end up winning in the end. I actually have a few thoughts as to why this might be, but I'll get into that later on in the video. For now, we're gonna actually do a little bit of testing going into this because I'm very curious about this. So we'll do a full-on, as the comment was suggested, as the challenge was suggested in the comment. But prior to that, I do want to do a little bit of testing. So first up, we're gonna just use some ships I've already designed before we get into actually designing a few specifically for this, and we're gonna just do yeah, I'm not sure how many Aussies we'll need to do, but let's see what's the cost of one of our ships. So we're gonna just use an Achilles, for an example. So we're gonna do the Mark III. It's $1,200. Actually, I think it's the Mark II that has a higher ceiling. We're gonna go, yeah, there we go. No, Mark II has bombs. Yeah, I guess we'll go with the Mark III seems like the better bet. So the Mark III, and then, so we've got 1,200, so we're going to need to throw down a few more Aussies, possibly just a couple of yeah, so if we do that, that's slightly, so again, this is fairly consistent with the challenge, so we're going to just keep it as is. I'm not too worried about having slightly more, a little bit higher costs for the Aussies than this. I still think this is going to be a pretty good challenge. So we're going to just let this run. I'm not really going to command much. We're not going to really need to. And we're going to basically just see how this goes. So it's 6-to-1 odds on the ships. And as you can see, so the armor's already gone. We're going to switch to outside view so we can actually see the damage coming in. So yeah, we've already taken quite a bit of damage. I'm going to actually speed this up a bit and kind of just see what happens. Switch over here, kind of keep them behind us as much as we can. I think we're going to have some slight issues probably. Yep, looks like we are running low on water to fight these fires. And this actually will get into some of what my concerns were. Yep, there we go, and we crashed. So this is actually played out very, very similar to what my suspicions were. Now, my suspicions is that wrong option, just regular combat. So my suspicion was that the reason smaller ships are really effective is because even, like, for example, the Aussie Mark 1, and we're going to try that same thing again with just a bunch of Mark 1s and see if it's the Mark 2s that kind of make the difference because they do have cannons. But I have a theory that the Mark 1s, even, though they only are armed with rifles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, still 6. They are still really effective because this ship has all cannons. The rifles basically can fire 2 shots to every shot a cannon can. Roughly, it's not. I don't know if that's exactly 100% accurate, but closely they have about twice as fast of a fire rate than a cannon. So you take that, factor that in, so this ship has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cannons, and it's going up against 12 rifles. So the 12 rifles, not only are there twice as many rifles as there are cannons, on either side, those 12 rifles also get to fire twice as many shots for every cannon. So I think it comes down to, even though the Aussies aren't very good at destroying the ship itself, what they're very good at is basically hitting either the coal store or the ammo stores and starting a fire. And while we can, do some, we do have some a fire station here to help put out fires, the problem kind of comes down to basically the issue comes down to every shot we fire is a chance of, every bullet that is shot, it has a chance of starting a fire. And seeing as how we can fire twice as many, actually 4 times as many, because it's twice as many guns, twice as many rifles to cannons, and twice as many shots in the same amount of time, we can basically fire 4 times as many shots as a cannon in the same amount of time the rifles can. The issue we're going to run into is that they have a much higher chance of starting fire. Like right here, you see we've started a fire on that small Aussie, so we've destroyed one. But I still think they're probably going to win this. We might actually pull this out. And again, that could potentially kind of come down to maneuverability. And actually comes down to the other element. I think the Aussies, because smaller ships tend to have a higher operating ceiling, I think they just are going to they have more maneuver. They're faster to maneuver. They have a higher operating ceiling. And typically, so you're generally going to see that they can outmaneuver larger ships. And again, even though they lack firepower, as you can see here, they're still able to start fires, even though they're not doing, if we switch to the outside view, they're not really doing damage to the hull of the ship, but they're still starting a lot of fires, and ultimately, fires are one of the deadliest things in this game. And as you see, we dropped to the ground. Now, we did take out one of the Aussies, and we did a decent amount of damage to the other ones, but again, the Aussies are just not taking it down. So again, we're pretty much dead in the water here, so we're going to speed this up. Yep, there we go. Crashed to the ground. We got a little bit of lift back, but yeah, it's too late. So yeah, I think everything I stated there, I hope makes some level of sense to you all. And again, I think that's my theory as to why small, cheap ships armed with honestly just rifles is very effective. So the part is kind of the other element of the challenge that the internet gave was designing a ship that is specifically meant to counter a lot of small, cheap ships. And is that even possible? I'm actually curious to see if it's even possible, because as it is, I honestly think any ship I design on a large scale is still going to be just outperformed by a bunch of the cheap ships. And again, the Aussies aren't even... the Aussies are by no means fully optimized. Like, I could optimize this design even more, I'm pretty sure. You could probably figure out a design that would be even more optimal than this, but this is just my design of a small, cheap ship. So, like I said, we're going to take a break here to try and actually design some stuff. So, we're going to actually back out of that, and we're going to do the airship editor. So, to start things off, we'll do one more quick fight as a part of this challenge, and then we'll get into some designing. So, we're going to add an airship. We're going to do what's the most expensive ship I have, one that I've designed. I'm not going to be using any from the Steam Workshop yet because, well, actually, all of these that I've used, I've actually proven mass Aussies are pretty effective against in the previous commenter challenge. Though, granted, there were other ships besides Aussies in those challenges. But let's see, that's 2,000. How does the Nelsons compare? Yeah, the Nelson Mark II is even more expensive. So we're going to go with the Nelson Mark II. I also know the Nelson Mark II has some pretty good lift to it. So we're going to actually probably have a higher lift ceiling than the Aussies, which is actually not going to be too bad. If they fly under this, we actually have bomb bays to operate. So we're going to try this. Now, this is going to be a lot of Aussies, though. That's the other problem. Again, in any sort of, like, if you're doing it based off of purely monetarily, every time you have like a large ship like this, you're going to just get so many Aussies that even if the large ship kills, let's say, one ship every 10 seconds, you still have to just kill so many ships that basically what's going to end up happening is the Aussies, like I said before, they have just a really good chance by the time you are able to start picking enough of them off, you're going to be able to probably start some fires on the larger ship. So that's kind of, I think, the main issue is that being able to start fires is just what makes cheap ships really powerful. That's actually really close monetarily, so we're going to add 1 or 2 more and get rid of some of these back Mark 1s until we get back down to closer to the same size. We're going to go ahead and add one back in of a Mark II, and let's see if this is 2-to-1 odd ratio roughly. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, we'll scrap one of those and grab another Aussie Mark 1 to keep things a little balanced. Again, trying to make it 2-to-1 odds as suggested in the challenge. Okay, so yeah, we are one short. We need one more Mark 1 to actually be 2-to-1 odds, but it's close enough. And we are a little bit over the amount of what we have, but again, challenge to specify greater, equal to, or greater. And honestly, I don't really care. Like, 100 worth of, like, $100 is not going to be a huge amount. So we're going to go ahead and start up, and let's see how the Nelson does. Now, the Nelson actually is very much a multi-role ship, so we're actually going to fly forward a little bit and let our bombs do some damage here. And this actually the Nelson might be a pretty good design to go up against these, because you have the bomb baits that any targets below you can get bombed, while your cannons are also providing firepower forward. Ideally, if we actually could we kind of want them to surround us, oddly enough, because we actually also have flat cannons. So we're actually going to drop down here and kind of see if we can get our flat cannons to get some targets, if we can actually lower down. But yeah, we're getting ready to go down to fire. We've already lost primary propulsion. And yep, there we go. We're going to just go down. I'm curious to see how many Aussies we destroyed. Looks like we destroyed maybe 3 or 4. And man, the Nelson is not doing good, guys. It's in bad shape. Again, we're going to take down a few of them with us, but ultimately we can't handle it. Yeah, so now our flat cannons actually have some targets, but the ammunition's about to blow, and there we go. Yep. That is the game. So, this is going to be very challenging. So we immobilized 2 and destroyed 1. So that's basically, we eliminated 3 ships. Man. Taking down 3. I mean, we were outnumbered by a lot, but still. I mean, that's going to be rough. We're going to try that exact same challenge again. I probably should have saved it, but it doesn't really matter. I think we had like 9 Aussies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That looks about right. And then we're going to add, I think it was 5 Mark IIs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that looks about nice. Looks like the same right amount of money. And then we got the Nelson, and we're actually going to do the Nelson. We're actually going to do kind of like lower altitude, because I'm thinking what I want to try and do is we want to try and have some of the ships below us so our bombs can have a target. We want 1 or 2 ships above us so our flat cannons will have a target. And then, of course, our forward cannons will be able to have targets. So we are actually going to push forward a little bit so our flat cannons can kind of start wrecking these guys. Because I do know flat cannons are pretty effective. Man, we already have fires started. And again, we could potentially design a better ship in terms of the placement of the anti-fire points, fire points, I guess. Are we already down in propulsion? Yeah, we don't have anyone manning propulsion. Well, that's another thing. The small ships the small ships usually don't get knocked out. Like, if you destroy their propulsion, they're probably going to be knocked out entirely. As where the larger ships, they can get, immobilize this, and then it's just easy to outmaneuver them. As where the small ships, because they're so small, you either just kill them outright, or, or something along. They either kill them outright, or they are functional. This is going to be a tough challenge to design something to counter the mass tiny ships. I don't know, maybe just a lot of small cheap ships just seems to be too good. Our poor... Yep, there we go. Poor Nelson just can't do the job. I'm curious to see if we even... Yeah, so we took out 3. So it basically looks like one Nelson can take out 3 Aussies. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. So we are now going to open up the airship editor and get started designing a large ship to deal specifically with Aussies. I'm going to throw a design together real quick so you guys don't have to waste the time kind of watching me think it out and as I tweak things and adjust. So I will be back momentarily. Alright everyone, well, this is the basic abomination that I have come up with. As you see, it's not finished. I got to cut back. So apparently there's a maximum limit on the number of air sails you can have in a single ship, and it's 120. So that does actually kind of put a certain limit, since I really don't like having... I like to have a little bit extra than the recommended cruise. So we're going to have to tone things down a little bit. So this is the basic design. This is probably what you're going to see. We're probably going to just scale it back a little bit. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to show you guys what I had planned so far, and I'll be back with the finished product soon. So it's not a particularly good looking ship necessarily, but I think it is maybe worthwhile. But 80,000, it's quite expensive. I'm not sure quite what to name this. All right, the Behemoth. Credit for that goes to my good friend. He's actually sitting right behind me right now. There we go, the Behemoth. So we're gonna save design. Behemoth. Mark 1. I have a feeling it'll probably be the only mark unless this fails terribly. I didn't really pay attention to all of the stats of it, so we're gonna just jump straight into combat and see how this goes. Alright everyone, I've got it set up. We have the Behemoth. As you can see, it's got a fairly low service ceiling, unfortunately. And then we have 23 Aussies Mark 1s and 12 Aussie Mark 2s. So roughly the 2-to-1 ratio. So let's see how this thing fares. So for weapons, I never really talked about what this thing has for weapons. So we basically tried to have a lot of fire points and stuff on it. We've got suspendium cannons at the front, as well as some Gatling cannons and flat cannons on top, ventral and dorsal turrets. And we didn't really do any rear weapons, but didn't really have the stuff. So, and again, I probably should better design, like have some coal more centered to the, we need like a coal, one of the coal bays to be up front more to help fuel the forward suspendium chambers. However, we're going to just kind of see how this does. Just going to move forward a little bit. Oh, come on. Come on. This is very much a Behemoth. It is very slow. Not particularly maneuverable, but hopefully it should be able to last quite a while in terms of staying on its feet. And it has a decent amount of ammo, but I don't know how rapidly the cannons are going through it. Seems like we're doing okay. Down quick water. Yeah, we got a lot of... Probably could redesign this better to have the placement of things. Like, we have too many suspendium chambers too far away from coal, so we need to fix that. We'll see how this battle goes, and then we will do a redesign of this. Same basic design, just move around where some of the components are. Okay, we're still fighting, though. Taking down a decent number of the Aussies so far. Yep, they're dropping like flies. We might be able to do this. I mean, this one is a... Well, I don't know. We still got like what? Like a 10 over there. Some more. We probably still have like a dozen to 15. Yeah, that's Mark 1. Come on, guys, stick it out. I'm gonna store caught fire. We did a pretty effective job of fighting most of the fires, so that is good to see. There are still a lot of Aussies. Ship is still alive. I also had multiple bridges on the ship, mainly to keep it survive. Okay, so this is the full list. Let's see. We took out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Looks like we did 13 casualties. 13, it kind of, I don't really count the no ammo because they're still functional. Even they just ran out of ammo. We were completely disarmed. So yeah, I'm going to do a quick redesign, and we're going to give this another shot. This is by far the best. Well, actually, I don't know. I was going to say this is the best one, but they've got like, I don't know, over a dozen still left. So, but either way, we're going to redesign, and I will be back momentarily.